Hey everyone, Chris Carter here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Today, we got to talk about what the Steelers quarterback plans should be. Keep Russell Wilson, keep Justin Fields, both, neither. All that's on the table, as well as was TJ Watt misused this year? And we'll have our stars and skulls grades from that playoff loss, all here in the Locked On Steelers podcast, joined today by Alan Saunders. It's going to be a fun one. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things of the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday, Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first listen every day because we're your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. As I said before, we're joined by the man himself, Alan Saunders. He's back from SteelersNow.com. I apologize for not bringing you back on last week, Alan, but I was traveling to Durham, North Carolina, and I had some things to do. This week, though, we got plenty to talk about with the season being over, so let's get to talking about it. I spent yesterday talking up and down about coaching, Mike Tomlin staying, what else needs to happen there. We'll have time to revisit that when those moves happen. But with the Steelers locker room cleanout day being yesterday, the Steelers were we talked to a bunch of guys. We got to talk to Russell Wilson again. And the question is, was that the last time we're going to get to talk to Russell Wilson with Steelers stuff on inside the Steelers locker room? And should it be the last time? Alan, what is your take right now about how the Steelers need to handle the quarterback situation moving forward?
They're in a bad spot, man. I don't know that there's a right answer to this question as we sit here right now. I mean, I can't really imagine the Steelers bringing Russell Wilson back and expecting it to be better in 2025 than it was in 2024. He'll be, a year older. I thought he got worse as the season went on. He wasn't healthy, had the calf injury. It's just a lot of bad that adds up. But I also look around and I don't see a lot of obviously better options either. Sam Darnold, we're recording this during the playoff game, and somebody needs to go put a wellness check out on Sam Darnold's agent because that man's lost about a lifetime's worth of money since the ball snapped between the Vikings and the Rams. I don't think he's it. I didn't think that was likely anyway. Like Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, there's not a lot out there. The draft class is crickets when you're talking about Steelers picking at 21. So I don't. There's wrong answers. I'm not sure there are any right ones.
I think that's the situation the Steelers are in right now. Is this quarterback market is about to be bad? Like, for example, some people were hyping up Sam Darnold but I'm like, hey guys, Sam Darnold has right up there with one of the best wide receiver duos in the NFL with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. He has one of the best tight ends in the NFL and TJ Hockenson. He also has two really good running backs. He also has a really good offensive line that is experienced, developed, and paid.
And a good offensive play caller, my coach of the year vote.
So right there, you have everything going in your favor, and he's in the playoffs getting whooped by the Rams worse than the Steelers were whooped by the Ravens. That's not what you want right there. And so I look at this, and I'm not saying the Steelers should definitely just keep Russell Wilson. I am saying that whoever they go with, there needs to be an understanding, because I also think Justin Fields is a question here. Okay, well, maybe before I go there, what would you say to, Russell Wilson wasn't enough? Let's just ride out with Justin Fields and see how that goes. Is that a viable move for the Steelers, or is that also something that you don't think gives them the right kind of answers?
It's I don't think that I don't think the Steelers would have been better this year if they had just played Justin Fields. I don't think he right now was the better player, but I don't see how you can possibly talk yourself into Russ being any better than he was this year. And I think it's at least possible that Justin Fields would be better next year than he was this year. He talked about not wanting to learn another offense again. It seems like he wants to be back. I don't know. I don't think it's like a sure thing by any stretch of the imagination, but at least you give yourself maybe a shot of getting a better quarterback play. I just don't see how anyone could think Russell Wilson coming back would be better next year. At least there's a shot with Justin Fields. I don't think it's a great one, but there's a shot.
Here was Russell Wilson when we got to talk to him in the Steelers locker room, particularly about himself, the team, and where this offense is headed, and his want to stay with the team. Here was Russell Wilson.
Russ, you've been on playoff winning teams, Super Bowl winning teams. What is this team missing?
I think missing is the wrong word. I just think that we got to recalibrate and get sharper on a couple things here and there, and continue to grow, continue to evolve. I think we're young, especially on offense. We'll continue to grow. And all that, but I think that I just think that we weren't able to finish. I mean, obviously we didn't start good enough in games. I think that always helps us when you get ahead a little bit early. So we got to figure that part out.
So when you say that's the plan to come back, have you expressed that to the Steelers, and have they kind of reciprocated that to you?
I mean, I think they've known that I've always wanted to be here and play here, but it's also a process. We haven't had those meetings yet. So that we'll have those, and we'll go from there.
What about the situation here makes you want to come back?
I just love the guys. I love the locker room. I love Coach Tomlin. I love who he is. I think that obviously this place is a place that I think can win a lot and all that stuff too. And I think we have a championship caliber football team. Like I said, it didn't go the way we wanted to this year. But I love playing football. I love playing the game, and if it works out that way, then I'll be excited to do that and put the black and gold on again.
Where do you find the most untapped potential in this offense, and what you guys needed to do that you think you really could do next season if you were to return?
I think explosive plays is always huge. I think we had a lot of good ones down the field. I mean, we had some huge chunks down the field, plays, passes, guys caught, make great plays. I think just finding explosive plays earlier in the game too. I think it's always key. You're always looking for those, 7 to 10 explosive plays a game, whether it's through the running game, pass game. I think those always help. And then I just think continue to mature. I think we're a team that's growing every day.
So here's my thing, Alan. I agree that there's the quarterback market's not great, and it might put you in a position where you need to keep either one or both of the quarterbacks that you had in your room going into next season again. But here's my thing about that's going to be hinge, I think, what the Steelers should do. It needs to be about who's going to take the most friendly financial deal for the Steelers, because, and I think it's not like in past situations where, you think this superstar player is just going to take a cheap deal because he likes you. No, because Russell Wilson is not a superstar anymore. He's not that quarterback that commands the same kind of contract that he did when he was leaving Seattle. And he says he wants to be within Pittsburgh. He says he wants to be somewhere where he can be competitive. He doesn't want to learn a whole new offense. Well, if I'm the Steelers and I look at, hey man, you didn't play well down the stretch of the season, but we think we could still work with it if we build around you. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to take this deal that's less than $20 million a year. I think that legitimately, like before when I was hearing rumors of $30 million for 3 years each, I was just like, that ain't adding up. Even when he was playing well, I thought that was a bit much. And now I think it's to the point where it's like, hey, kind of like with Sam Darnold, like this is the price. Let's rock with this. And then this way you're getting paid. You're already legend. You got a lot of money. You're still getting paid, but now you're going to be on a team that's going to be investing more of that money into getting you help. Now you can have another star wide receiver. Now maybe they could pay for a new offensive lineman to join this, a better veteran to join the offensive line, and they can invest more in the defense so that you're playing in a better situation. You're not being asked to kind of carry the offense the way he kind of did in the second half of the game. Again, not saying that he did great things, but it was him in the deep ball that was the only ever threat that the Steelers offense posed in that game. So I think that if it's Russell Wilson, if he doesn't want to take that, you offer the same sort of thing to Justin Fields. Hey, Justin, you were a backup this year. We were solid. You still need development. Here's less than $20 million. We'll rock out with that. I think that's what the situation needs to call for. It's the Steelers being like, look, we'd like to have you guys back. We think that we can work with you, but we can't be paying y'all this money because we got other problems on this team to figure out.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And the other thing I want to add to the quarterback conversation is I think they've got to take a swing at a developmental guy. I think they've got to at least throw a dart at the board in the draft. I know it's not going to be in the first round, probably not going to be in the first 2 days, but I think they've got to take a look at maybe with a day 3 pick, just try to take a swing and see what happens if you bring a guy in. They haven't developed a quarterback since Mason Rudolph. Like, I mean, just give yourself a chance to get lucky with a guy. I actually kind of like the day 3 quarterback prospects. There's some interesting guys in there. Jackson Dart, McCord from Syracuse, Curtis Rourke from Indiana. Like, I think these guys aren't going to be all pros, but like maybe there's a diamond in the rough there. I don't know. I think it's worth taking that shot. Like, I think Kyle Allen's a good player, and I'm sure they were really comfortable with him as their third quarterback. I just think they've got to find a way to find some potential future upside in the room. And if they're bringing back Russ or Justin, like, I think then it really heightens that need to find a way to get some upside.
Well, they had Phil Dracovic in for rookie camp last year. They can always call him up. There's a Pitt joke for you. But I agree with you. Like that I think that there should be a developmental look there somewhere that you can say, hey, down the line, if none of this works out, that you at least have a young guy that's learning the offense. Eventually, they're going to need to take a big swing at quarterback. But we knew what this was the whole time. Russell Wilson and Justin Fields were temporary fits while they were waiting to find that answer, and they were building the roster, because I think the dream is you want to find that quarterback that you think is your quarterback, your Jaden Daniels sort of situation, and then when you bring him in, like you brought in Roethlisberger, into an already made roster where they don't have to be the straw that stirs the drink. They just got to play to the scheme, make big plays in the big moments when you're kind of giving them a good setup, and the rest of the team around them is already formed. I think this is still that time where they're doing that. They just need these bridge quarterbacks to kind of help them get there, and it's going to be money that determines that. But another thing that's going to determine that is how this team plays defense. And we talked a lot about Terrell Austin on yesterday's episode. I want to talk specifically about TJ Watt, because he was silenced in the Ravens game, and there were quite a few games down the stretch where he did not make big impact plays. And I want to talk about why that was and what they can do different. Next, here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, Chris Carter, Alan Saunders. Stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, I want to remind you, this show is brought to you by TurboTax. Are you tired of the endless waiting, wondering, and worrying about your taxes? Well, now that's a thing of the past. Taxes don't need to be complicated or stressful. TurboTax is here to change the game by matching you with a TurboTax expert who can get to work on your return right away. No more waiting for answers. No more wondering if you're missing out on deductions. No, not taxes into the sunset. Whether you've got one form or 20, TurboTax experts give your taxes their undivided attention while you get real-time updates on their progress, so you can focus on what really matters. You won't have to lift a finger, but you'll get the peace of mind knowing that your taxes are being handled by the pros. Ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed? Head over to TurboTax.com today and get matched with your expert who's ready to take your taxes off your plate so you can focus on your day. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, here with Alan Saunders of SteelersNow.com. Alan, we got to talk about TJ Watt. I've talked about the defense, and one of the things I talked about with Terrell Austin, and I feel, well, I'll ask you this before we get there. Do you feel it's likely that Terrell Austin is fired? Or do you think it's unlikely because he's under contract?
I actually don't know what his contract situation is, but I would be kind of surprised if they go status quo there. I think it's a pretty hard sell the way this defense is underperformed to bring back Tomlin and bring back the defensive coordinator.
Okay, so we're on the same page there. I think that they're probably moving on there. Now I want to look at this, and I want to look at TJ Watt, because one of the things I brought up with Terrell Austin that didn't happen, and I thought it it had a chance to happen in this season, was the moving around of TJ Watt in the Steelers defense. We noticed this back right before the bye week when they moved him four times to the right side of the defense, against the Giants, and eventually it yielded a sack in a big play moment when the Giants kind of lost account for him because he was moving around in that game. It created some confusion. The problem was, after the 4 times in that game, according to Pro Football Focus, he only ever lined up on the right side of the defense 6 more times, 6 more entire snaps the rest of the season. So it wasn't a thing. The only other time he got to 4 times was in week 13. So looking at that, and he didn't do it in the week 15, 16, 17, 18. So in the losing streak, he never moved from the left side where he normally lines up. And I think that played a big role in why he was getting limited, because teams were scheming up. Hey, and it's not saying that, like, people are saying, oh, Rosengarten, shut down TJ Watt. Like, okay, but he was one-on-one with him twice, and one of those times he let TJ Watt just run right past him. The Ravens put a whole lot of effort, tight ends, running backs, extra linemen, and also just schemes that avoided TJ Watt to keep him out of the play. And I think that's something that didn't happen this year enough, Alan, that both TJ and Alex and Cam, they have a really good set of skill guys up front who can be difference makers and havoc records. And I get that in the past they've lived off of being able to just say, hey, you know what, you four, go get them. That's what you do. But they needed to be more creative there, and they just weren't. And I think that's one of the things that they need out of a new defensive coordinator this year.
I just feel like the Steelers were too concerned about minimizing their weaknesses and not focused enough on maximizing their strengths, right? Like, they were so worried about, like, oh, how are we going to cover this guy? What are we going to do here? We're having these miscommunications. How are we going to fix this? How are we going to fix that? That it never became, like, how to, like, free TJ Watt never became a focus, right? The focus was always on, like, how to minimize what was going wrong instead of how maximizing their strengths. It just never felt like an effort. I mean, like, Akello Witherspoon had a sack, forced fumble tonight. Like it's not that hard to scheme up a sack. Like, it's just not. And so I just didn't feel like the Steelers ever made it like a concerted effort to do it. Like, it just felt like their focus was always in other places. It doesn't have to be moving him around. Like, I know that people talk about that a lot. Like, vary the width of his rush. Like, he doesn't have to be in that wide 9 on every single stance where he's all the way outside the formation. And if the guy throws it in 2.5 seconds or less, he's just not fast enough to get from A to B. Like, it doesn't, they don't have to block him at all. And so I think, there's a lot of ways to change it up. The two things that I know about TJ Watt is that he is stubborn as all get out, and that he is obsessed with being great. And I think right now, the words we heard from TJ Watt today were, maybe I've been a little more stubborn. Like, maybe I should look into this and figure out how that stubbornness has been holding me back and how I can be even better. And also, like, it shouldn't have to be him. Like, that should be coming from above. I understand he's a great player and you can kind of let them be their own coach a lot of times, but somebody needed to be guiding him so he doesn't have to get there on his own too.
Agreed. And it's funny that you did that, because it's a perfect segue, because here's TJ Watt saying those things. He said a lot of other things. He talked about the team and the defense, but specifically I wanted to talk about this topic because I feel like this was something that if the Steelers had done, it would have freed up their best player and it would have allowed him to wreck games. And if he wrecks even just a few moments in different times, in different games, maybe they pull out one of these wins. I'm not saying they would have, but maybe you letting your best defensive player be the best defensive player would have helped out. Here was TJ Watt when we asked him about where he was in the defense.
I know you had a strip sack in the Bengals game that got called back through penalty. Other than that, why do you think you weren't as productive in these last 3 or 4 games?
I don't know. I just need to find ways to make more plays. Obviously, teams are playing certain ways and chips and helps and stuff like that, and getting the ball out quick, and need to be more open to moving around more and trying to affect games as much as possible. You guys know I want to affect the game more than anybody, but I don't want to selfishly take another guy's go to a different spot, and I feel like I could have a better rush on the left side. Definitely feel like schematically it's been a tough year for how the offensive scheme things to try to get me out of the game. And, it's going to be a big breakdown for me to try to find ways to make plays. I'm not making excuses for myself at all. I want to make plays. I need to find ways to continue to win off of chips and slides and things of that nature. And I'm going to work tirelessly this offseason to get that sorted out.
You mentioned potentially moving around more. Staying on the left side to this point as much as you have been mainly your preference, and are you open to maybe softening on that?
Yeah, I mean, I move around from time to time. Yeah, primarily the left. I prefer the left. But at this point in my career, I want to be an impact player. I don't want to be schemed out of games. I want to be able to deliver the football in good field positions or take the football away. It wasn't a good enough year for myself when it comes to that.
When it comes to moving around, you talked about you guys did that at times. In the middle part of the season, you guys did do that more like against the Giants. What kind of pushback against it happened, kind of growing throughout the season?
Oh, Alex got healthy, and part of it is Alex is a great rusher on the right side. And at times he can be a better rusher than me at the right than I can be at the right. And I don't want to take away his natural rush instinct side for me to go to the right and not be as effective where I can be on the left and him on the right, if that makes sense. And it's just things where if I move around to help move the chip or create some indecision on where the chip goes, then I have to be more willing and able to do that. And I will.
So I think TJ Watt means it when he says he's willing to do whatever he needs to do to be in that situation. But I mean, like, I get saying like, hey, Alex is really good from the other side, and Alex is. I think Alex Highsmith makes a lot of plays from his spot, but these guys are good enough to win in multiple positions. I think that they need to be good enough to move around, because when you're lining up in the same spots and the same, and like you said, it doesn't have to even be flipping from right to left all the time. Just sometimes just being in different spots and where you line up on the left side versus Alex on the right side. But when you're switching that up more, you're forcing the offense to communicate, because best believe how when every team, when they're blocking TJ Watt and they're trying to limit him in a game, they're doing so by talking a lot. They're saying, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing here. But when they know that you're lining up in the same spot, they don't. It limits what they have to communicate about. Like, all right, we know he's going to be there, so that's what we're going to do. But if you move him to the left side, all of a sudden, they're like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, switch. We got to do this. We got to do that. And while they're doing that, they're not thinking about, okay, now we just got to go make our plays. You're forcing the offense to think, and that's something the Steelers didn't do enough of this year. It's something I think that they need to do more of. For as long as they have TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith. And I think that's another point here for about whoever, again, Terrell Austin hasn't been fired yet. Like I think it's probably going to happen. But if the Steelers get a new defensive coordinator, or when they get a new defensive coordinator, as we assume they will, it needs to be a person who specializes in that, but can also help on the back end, because I always felt Keith Butler, that his thing was up front. He was a linebackers coach. He was really good at scheming up run fits versus blitzes and things like that, and wasn't as much a secondary guy. That's where Terrell Austin came in. He was a secondary guy. And again, I think Terrell Austin did some good things, but this was a weakness that they cannot have, especially when they want to be dominant up front.
It's really interesting that they had Keith Butler, who was linebackers coach, and then they brought in Terrell Austin for that senior defensive assistant position, who was a secondary guy, and I thought they really worked really well together. And then Butler retired, and they brought in Brian Flores to work with Austin, and I thought it worked really well together. And then Flores left, and I don't think that was a problem for the Steelers, but they never replaced him. I feel like this is a problem now that was created by inaction in the offseason. And I think that's it's a bad look. I feel like their coaching staff was less than coming into the year, and now we're sitting here talking about maybe firing a coordinator, and it's like, well, you wonder why.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing there. So you look at that, that's a big factor that has to change for the Steelers. I do think that it would behoove them to make those changes, but we got to talk about the Stars and Skulls grades. We do have Stars and Skulls grades from the playoff game. I haven't spent as much time breaking down this film. I did go do 2 watch throughs to kind of put this together. Normally I do a bit more than that, but we had a lot of other things to try to take care of with the end of the season. So we're going to do that in the next segment here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Alan Saunders, stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, I want to remind you the show is brought to you by Game Time. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. And one of my favorite things to do is when you're at a live event and seeing the energy, excitement, because it's unforgettable when you pick the right one, whether it's a concert, a sporting event, anything like that. Game Time makes it easier to get tickets because they have great options on there in the Game Time app called things like Game Time Picks. This is a feature that filters out the fluff so that you can see the incredible deals on great seats and don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets for your big event that you're going to. Whether you're looking for tickets for bands that are coming to town or the next big concert, or you want to get tickets for the next big game, Game Time is the best place for you to find those tickets. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all your sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. Plus, the Game Time brings you the Game Time guarantee, which means you'll always get the best price if you find tickets in the same section or row for less somewhere else. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference of those prices. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase, or go to their website, gametime.co. Terms and Restrictions apply. Create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm your host, Chris Carter, here with Alan Saunders of SteelersNow.com. We're back and we're doing it. We got our final Stars and Skulls grades week of the season. Now, we will do our full tallies of how every player did on the team that we do every year. I'll probably spend this next week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, tallying things up, creating the graphics for it, and then we'll start the rollout of each episode. We'll do at least a position, probably either late January into early February, as we're getting to Super Bowl season. Might even do it right after the Super Bowl, as we kind of continue through things, because there's probably some changes coming that we're going to talk about. But we got other days for that. Let's get to this. As always, our grades are simple. It's stars and skulls. Stars are good, skulls are bad. 1 to 3 stars, 1 to 3 skulls, for how you can be graded in a game. Alan, I don't have any 2 stars. I don't have any 3 stars. I do have an assortment of 1 stars, because I did think that there were individuals who had individually good moments that didn't really hurt the team as much. So with that, I'm going to reveal our 1 stars here. As always, we start with the good whenever it's a bad week. I give my 1 stars to Mike Williams, Zach Frazier, Spencer Anderson, Calvin Anderson, George Pickens, Corliss Waitman, Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin, Cam Hayward, Landon Roberts, and Najee Harris. Particularly the playmakers on offense. Williams had a really great catch. Najee Harris had a great catch and run. Also had 41 yards on 3 catches. I thought he was solid there. Pickens, he was back to being Pickens in this game. Corliss Waitman, I thought, had some good punts that could have been capitalized on better by the Steelers defense. I gave a star each to Spencer Anderson and Calvin Anderson, because there were times I forgot that they were in the game, and that's whenever you're an offensive lineman and I'm not thinking, oh, the backup's in, that means you're doing your job. So I give them points for that. And then, of course, Van Jefferson's touchdown, got to give him credit for that. Calvin Austin's big catch over the middle, I thought that was a really that was a true heart type of play. Cam Hayward and Landon Roberts, because I felt like they were the only guys on the defense that were really fighting tooth and nail to try to make a difference there. Alan, got any problem with my 1-star grades here?
No, man. I had like a whole list over here. I was like, I'm ready. I'm going to add some stars. Now you got them all.
There we go.
You got them all.
There we go.
You got them all.
All right. So with that, we're going to move right to the skulls here. Now, I want to reveal this before I think, and I want to get your opinion on this. Alan, I gave Russell Wilson a neutral grade for this game. He missed open receivers. He did throw some amazing passes in the second half. Like some of those deep balls he threw, I was like, where the heck was that? But when you look, I didn't even watch the all 22 at first. I was home. I never had seen before the Amazon Prime like their all 22 live view. I was like, this is amazing. Yeah, the next step, that was amazing. And I was able to see it. I was like, oh no, that guy's open, that guy's open, that guy's open. So I'm able to see that from the comfort of my own home. And so that's why he gets a neutral grade. I felt like there were a lot of opportunities he left on the table, but I also felt like a lot of the things that didn't go right weren't always also his fault either. And he made some plays. So I give Russell Wilson a neutral grade. Do you agree with that assessment?
100%. Yeah, I saw exactly the same thing. Oh, excuse me. Too many open guys that he couldn't find. Too many, like, first read was covered and then he bailed on the pocket. Too many, like, just throw away, like, not even close to making a play. I just think it really revealed, like, exactly how limited Russell Wilson is at this point in his career. It really is just 3-pointers and layups. Like, they had nothing going other than just chucking it deep. And it's really, really hard to run an offense that way.
It is. So there you go. He gets a neutral grade here. Let's get to our skulls. I have 4 1-skull guys: Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington, Keanu Benton, Alex Highsmith. Highsmith was one that I was tough for me because he did have that sack in the game, Allen. But when I just look back at the run game, I felt like he over pursued a lot, and there were some really big mistakes where he kind of got fooled by the read option. We'll get to other guys in this game as well. So I gave him a skull. Keanu Benton, I felt, could have been better as well in the run game. And trust me, there's a lot more skulls about to be given out here. I also gave us a skull each to Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington. Both had a drop. I felt like maybe I could be a little bit harsher on Pat because there was the one play where he caught the ball short of the sticks and then just got beat. He was tackled in open space by a defensive back. That's a space where he needs to be able to win with the ball in his hands. But I still said, well, I'll leave him with a 1 skull because I didn't think he was like egregiously the problem the way some other guys were in this game.
Yeah, the only one I may quibble with here is Highsmith, just because I feel like it was like the strategy was wrong on the forcing of the zone read more than it was the players. Like it felt like the defense was coaching them to go to the running back and leave Lamar for the safety, which to me is just it's the back way the Steelers usually do it. It felt wrong. I don't think it worked, but like I don't know how much I want to blame Alex Highsmith for that because I think it was the plan. As crazy as that kind of sounds, I probably would have gone neutral with him, but I like the rest, and I got a lot more skulls here that I assume we're going to be getting to.
Oh, we're getting to them here. Here's some of our 2 skulls. We got a lot of 3 skulls this week. No bus tickets, but a lot of 3 skulls. Here's our 2 skullers. I got Isaac Seumalo, TJ Watt. I don't know why Alex Highsmith's still there. I meant to put him as a 1 skull. Probably was copying and forgot. So ignore Alex Highsmith on your screen if you're watching this on YouTube. But my 2 scullers, Isaac Seumalo and TJ Watt in this one. Trust me, there are plenty of 3 scullers coming. In fact, you know what? We're just gonna roll right to them. We're gonna keep it going. This is probably the most 3 scullers I've had in the same game. Broderick Jones, Cameron Sutton, Montravius Adams, Larry Ogunjobi, Dante Jackson, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Patrick Queen, all 3 scullers in this game. Broderick Jones, he gave up 2 pressures in this game, and there was that one play that everyone's been looking at where both him and Dan Moore were pulling at the same time. I admit I haven't gotten a chance to talk to any particular offensive lineman about that specific play, but just looking at the construct of the play, it looked like Broderick Jones was not the one who was supposed to be pulling, in my opinion. So you got that, you got miscommunications, you got pressures allowed. Didn't think that was good. Cam Sutton just yet again showed I don't understand why he's in the secondary and playing right now. He did not have, I'm not sure what plays he made this year. Montravius Adams, Larry Ogunjobi just got bullied up front and compromised the middle of the Steelers defense a lot. Dante Jackson, I felt like didn't contribute either. There were times he was even pulling up and not making plays. Minkah Fitzpatrick, not finishing plays, getting dragged a lot in this game, not being in position to make plays. And then Patrick Queen. And I understand Patrick Queen did have the flu. Ian Rappaport did point out, like, hey, this guy had IV fluids being pumped into him before the game because he needed, he was that sick. And so, he does get a pass there as far as like, I don't think that he's terrible, but if you look at these guys, I think these guys were some of the biggest culprits in why the Steelers just got their butts kicked, especially on defense in this game.
Yeah, Mon Adams is the one guy in there that I didn't think maybe was that bad. I thought he had a couple nice moments where he got some pressure up the middle on Lamar, but nobody got home on any of them. So I guess fair is fair. Cam Sutton, man, like I don't even need to have words. You got this is from Steelers Now photographer Ed
Thompson.
My goodness! Like I don't even need to.
Oh my god!
It's just
that's like the kangaroo lady from the Olympics.
Record scratch. Hold up. You might be wondering how I got here.
I apologize to our audio audience who is probably thinking, like, what the heck are they talking about? Alan just held up his phone. It's a photo of was that Lamar running or Derek?
That's Isaiah Likely.
That was like even worse. Sutton. Isaiah Likely's running down the field.
With the Pittsburgh Steelers, likely.
And
just a brutal stiff arm that got Cam Sutton upside down with his feet up in the air, his neck torqued, his helmet on the ground, and
looked like he was breakdancing.
It's not a position you want to find yourself in as a defender.
No, it was not. That was pretty rough. Here's my thing, Alan, and so just concluding on the grades here. This was a week where the Steelers needed to know the option was coming. We saw it in the second Ravens game and how much of a problem it was. I think they needed a better plan on how to handle it. But I also thought that they needed to be just more physical. And there were guys that were just looked worn out in this game with the lack of commitment to being aggressive and setting a tone. And that let them be bullied in this game. And if they get a cut, if they don't allow that the long Derrick Henry touchdown and the touchdown at the end of the first half, then the offense's efforts in the second half at least make it a football game. But they didn't even bring that, and that's where I think it's just pathetic on the part of some of these guys on this list, and disappointing because guys like Minkah Fitzpatrick, again, Patrick Queen, I kind of give a pass with the flu thing if that's the thing, but we know that can really that's different for everybody. That can really knock you out of it. But other guys like Larry Ogunjobi, I feel like that he has been an extreme disappointment this season with how much money they've paid him and how he was supposed to step up this year. Just across the board, big questions as far as who needs to step up next year to still be part of this defense, and what do you do as a defensive coordinator, whoever they hire, to try to put these guys in better positions to not be three skull type players.
Yeah, I think it's a big question. I don't know that there's any easy answers either. Like I thought the secondary was a mess. They didn't tackle well. They didn't cover all that well. They at least communicated fairly well, which has been an issue for them. But like, man, it was a bad day. I didn't like the effort from a lot of guys. I thought there was a lot of standing around watching other guys make tackles. Just did not look like an engaged performance, especially. I really feel like the Ravens just kind of took their souls a little bit. Like I just felt like they got demoralized as the game went on, and that's supposed to be that unit is supposed to be the reason the Steelers are winning games, and instead they were having their hands on their hips with no answers to even get themselves off the field, let alone be the winning factor.
Yeah. I agree. They needed to do a lot more to seal that win there. Not to seal the win, to put up a better fight in that game, because they left us so much on the table. And I think that's the thing, is that you normally see that defense being the one that sets the tone. They make the other team quit. And this time around, it was them that got worn down. We got a lot more to talk about, because this is going to be a long offseason, a lot to break down, other things, other people that we talked to. We talked to Troy Faltano in the locker room, as well as Pat Fryermuth. I want to continue with that on more shows this week. We will be doing that all week long. Alan, thanks so much for joining us. Let people know you can find you, follow you, get more of your work.
At @Saunders_PGH on social media, PGH Steelers Now, site's account, SteelersNow.com. And you can find my podcast, Steelers Afternoon Drive and Steelers Morning Rush, on the Steelers Now YouTube page or anywhere you find podcasts.
Thanks as always to Alan. Thanks as always to you all for tuning into the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, all the social medias at Carter Critiques. Find me here in the Locked On Steelers podcast every day, Monday through Friday, on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to this channel to get all of your daily episodes. Back tomorrow with another episode on your Steelers right here on the Locked On Steelers podcast.